Today we are talking about the Corrosion shotgun. You can buy this gun from the Wish machine from the blueprint shop by pressing G. We are going to go through how the gun works and how the damage is calculated, as well as we're going to jump into the mods later in the video. Recently this gun got a huge buff, so it is now the right time to jump in and get this gun in your hands. Alright, so jumping into the gun's passive, we have 80% chance to trigger Power Surge with a hit, but will not inflict Power Surge status on deviants. That last line, will not inflict Power Surge status, is a lie. It does inflict it, and I don't know why. It might be a bug, it might be not, but this has been in the game for a while and is still not fixed, so they might fix this in the future, because the gun with this is kind of broken. I'm shooting the player and it's getting a status infliction. Now, what that is if you right click on the gun, go to details, X on I keyword. Here it says that once you apply Power Surge to somebody, it will inflict Power Surge status for 6 seconds. So that is actually showing on our debuffs on the other player. Also, Power Surge damage is dependent of your psi intensity, which is 50% of it. So for example, if we have 125 psi intensity, make that half, and our damage is going to be 62.5, rounded to 63. So if I shoot, as you can see, we do 72 Power Surge damage. Now here it says Power Surge can deal crit hits. Power Surge crit rate is also increased by 25%. So if your gun has 21.6 crit rates, add that 25% extra for Power Surges. That will not count for physical bullets though, however. It's two separate things, crit rate for your bullets and crit rate for your Power Surge. But yeah, extra 25 is very nice indeed for Power Surge. When you trigger Power Surge, you will gain 50% crit damage for 6 seconds. That is a lie. You gain 40%. As you can see, we have 0% crit damage right here for Power Surge. If I trigger once, we will get 40%. So this is a mistranslation. It's supposed to be 40 for 6 seconds, stack up to 5 times, not 4 times. Boy, if it stacked up to 4 times, that would be amazing. And gaining 50%. As you can see, clearly it's 5 stacks. 200 divided by 40 will give us 5. So 5 stacks. Not sure how they can even mess up the translation here, but hey. New patches, new bugs, I guess. And then we have Power Surge damage factor plus 15%, which is just a boost for your Power Surge damage by 15%. Now, how does the damage work? As we mentioned, psi intensity is your base damage for your Power Surge. So that's technically divided by 2, 62.5. And then that's our damage right here, rounded. If we added that 15% Power Surge damage factor, we would be doing 72 Power Surge damage, rounded. So that's the damage we're actually doing in game, as you can see, 72. If you put, let's say, elemental damage against normal enemies, status damage, the dummy is considered a normal enemy, so putting normal enemy substat will increase your damage. However, if you're bossing, you will want gray ones. Since we put elemental overload 18% as a core effect, 6.4 substat, we would have to include that in the new calculation. So we would put 24.4 elemental, and then we would put 6% normal enemies, and we would put 2.4 status damage. That will be your final damage when shooting. And lastly, since we equipped gloves, as you can see, the psi intensity increased. So if we just divide that by 2, and this is our final damage, 191. Testing that in the game, our surge will do 191. And that's how you calculate Surge's damage. For normal bullets, it's the same concept. You would apply weapon damage bonus, you would apply crit damage, and that's really it. We also have, for the calibration, attack minus 10%, which is just another multiplier that decreases your base damage overall for the physical damage. And here we have the multipliers of how to calculate your damage. So if you want to add a new multiplier, you would be basically copying this one. Let's say you have 1000 psi intensity and you want to calculate your damage. And that's what you would have to do. Just copy this, add a new one, and replace the minus 50 to whatever multiplier it is. Let's say you have 30% elemental, then you just put 30 here. If you have 20% status damage, you put 20 here. Or you can just simply write in 1000 multiplied by 1, 30, multiplied by 1, 2, and then you just keep adding, multiply, whatever other multipliers you want to add. Let's say 60% power surge damage bonus, you would just add 1, 6, and just keep going and going. That's really how the damage calculations work for this gun and for any other guns. Alrighty boys, and now it's that time once again, jumping to the spreadsheets and min-maxing your frickin' damage. So for a beginner build, you will want to run this preset, as it says here. If you have downstar suffix mods, use them instead of violent. They provide same value and give more damage with medium conditions. A lot of people just keep asking me what to do if you don't have lunar or downstar. Just use violent and talents. That's literally it. For the beginner preset, you will want to use 2 talents, 3 violent, and 2 downstar. If you don't have 2 downstar, then you just put 5 violent. Downstar mods are obtained from a Visual Wheel server. As you can see, when you select here, you can see a Vision Starfall inversion. So that's how you get downstar mods, by just doing the gravity event there. For the armor presets, you will want to run Gas Mask as a keyword item, which you can buy from Wish Machine for 8,000 Starchrome or just roll it randomly. You will need 2 shelter pieces and 3 Lone Wolf. You can actually replace the shelter pieces to 4 Lone Wolf and then just replace any other piece to 1 Renegade or something for reload speed for the gun. As reloading this gun sometimes takes quite long, take that reload speed if you really need it. But I recommend to use Shelterer 2 pieces because to get that extra elemental damage for your surges, because the elemental damage that we'll have is going to be pretty low, 32 only. Now this is, however, a beginner preset. You should stay on this preset for like a week or 2. If you want, just go straight to the endgame preset because that does the most damage. It is, however, a low HP build, so you'll be staying low HP to deal damage. For beginners, I just recommend this preset to start off, and until you feel confident, then you can move on to this endgame preset. Now for the calibration, you will want to run rapid 2 times crit rate, and yeah, you don't want to go elemental damage because you want to get crit rate because the gun surges can crit and your physical bullets can crit as well. So we're aiming for 100% crit rate for the surges and around 84% crit rate for your normal bullets, which will let you do hella damage when your surges crit all the time. For the buffs, we're using Whimsical Drink and Stardust Energy Drink as a second food buff. Second food buffs can only be eaten if you are a chef class. They can have 2 drink buffs and 2 food buffs. If you're not sure how to stack food buffs, go watch my chef guide. I explain every single food list buffs and how to stack buffs pretty much. But if you're not a chef class, then do not drink Whimsical Drink in silos. So you would be drinking just the Stardust Energy Drink and you would be eating only the hot dog in silos. But if you are clearing monoliths, then you would want to drink the Whimsical Drink with the hot dog for monoliths. Because in monoliths, as you can see, this Stardust Energy Drink doesn't work. Same for Light Dreamers and Endless Dreams, the Stardust Energy Drink doesn't work. But for silos, the Stardust Energy Drink works. All you need to do is just pop this open, get this Cradle perk for every 1 second spent airborne, which all you need to do is just double jump, and you will get this 20% damage against deviants increase. This works outside the world, and it works on Rosetta, Vultures, Deviants, but it doesn't work in monoliths. So only in silos and outside the world and in Leah Lab and Sector Haze Zone, Black Sector, whatever that's called. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the food buffs. The reason why we want hot dog and bone and sausage is because it gives you green one's damage when you mark the enemy. This in default just gives you green one's damage, so you don't really have to mark, but it's just the best. Of course, if you don't like this, you can also use a sparkling pumpkin soup, which is not going to give you that much damage increase. It's only 13.8% damage increase with the chef, so just, you don't really need it for the small mobs, do you? Because the small mobs die very quickly anyway, so just stick with the sausage if you want more boss damage. But yeah, these are the best food buffs. For Light Dreamers, you can eat roulette dumplings. However, you need to eat these multiple times because not always you can get elite enemies damage increase, so maybe you'll eat it once and you'll get it. Maybe you'll eat twice or 3 times and you won't get it. So it's RNG. But this is the best food buff. Hot dog with roulette dumplings. And you can get this from simply going here, events, Visual Wheel, click on Starfall Collection, and then go to Past Shop. Here you can buy 3 recipes, and that will be the Surprise Spring Roll, roulette dumplings, and unusual braised meat. The Surprise Spring Roll can actually be super beneficial as well, and I'm actually gonna put that in the list as well. Instead of the boss damage, you can eat a surprise spring roll and this will give you elemental damage, so you can get up to 20.7 elemental damage. I included that as well, and you can use spring rolls really for bossing as well, so instead of the sausage, just replace spring rolls if you want, as this will boost damage for small mobs and bosses as well. Although remember, if you use the sausage, it will boost your damage from surges and for your bullets. But the spring rolls will only be elemental damage, which will increase only your power surge, but not the physical bullets. So you might do less damage. Anyways, for the hide mask, you want to put Lucky Rabbit, which is when you craft armors, it can be tier 5. Select the Lucky Rabbit fur, just like so, and Lucky Rabbit fur can be obtained from just taming rabbits and killing them when you reach enough tameness. It says here after scoring a crit, elemental damage 10% for 3 seconds, but it's not after scoring a crit. Now all you need to do to trigger this Lucky Rabbit thingy is just trigger power surge. As soon as you trigger power surge, you can see that this appears. For the mods, you will want to go for shock rampage on the gun. The reason why we're going with shock rampage is because this mod will provide you extreme consistency. You will get 5% surge trigger chance every time you trigger it. For 5 seconds, it will stack 4 times, which in total you will get 20%. If you check the gun's passive, you have 80% chance to trigger power surge. So it is applying to the base chance, so you will be getting extra 16% trigger chance, which in total you will get 96%. Later I will explain again why we're using that, but for now we prefer quality over quantity, and as most people would probably put static shock and be like, oh, that's good, extra damage, why not? But in reality, if you don't trigger a power surge, you're technically making the gun useless and you're losing a lot of damage. So you need the shock rampage on this gun. Don't get me wrong, static shock does more damage, but when you don't trigger it, you're literally gambling with the damage. Oh, let's do some damage, let's not do some damage. So we want to do 100% trigger chance. For Faithful Strike, we're using Faithful Strike for the helmet. It gives us 10% crit rate and 30% crit damage. That's a lot of gains right there. And the reason why we're not using Deviation Expert is because you will shoot faster, you will get status damage, but you will lose crit rate, which we will make power surge crits less frequent, which really will result in damage. Yes, you do get fire rate, but that's not going to compensate for the DPS loss. The gun Corrosion has 15% weak spot damage. So we are so confident to use that Faithful Strike because it's just 15%. You're not really going to gain much out of it. Let's move on to the mask. We want first electrocution for it. And the first electrocution will basically give us 35% damage increase. Let's put, for example, this one 8% normal enemies and 2.4 power surge damage. Now, as you can see, I shoot, we do 280 power surge damage, and then it goes to 308. So technically that 35% is always there. Power Surge's ultimate's damage, 35%. And then of course we do more damage because of the Lucky Rabbit Fur. And here's the calculations. Putting all these numbers up gives us the exact damage, 280 and then 308 if you put all of this together. So it's correct and it's matching. We're using Crit Amplifier for the gloves. Most of you probably would want to put Elemental Overload, but here's why we're not putting that. It's because if you put Overload, yes, you will gain more Power Surge damage, but Crit Amplifier gives us crit rate 10% and crit damage 15%. We need that crit rate a lot for this gun. The crit damage doesn't really matter that much, but technically, if you want more Elemental, then just make this Crit Amplifier Talents instead of a Violent. So you can get still that crit rate and crit damage and get 8% elemental from the substats if your build needs elemental balancing. So that's really it. We cannot use status enhance, we cannot use elemental overload, just use crit amplifier. For the top piece, it's up to you what you use. Quick comeback is a great choice because this gun does take a little bit of a time to reload, but when you use a healing shot, you will get movement speed and it will refill your magazine. On top of that, if you combine this with this Rapid 8 Cradle, you'll get faster heals and faster cooldown, which you can just spam activators to reload your ammo and not worry about reloading your gun at all. For the shoes, we're using Covered Advance. Simply, it's the best mod you can possibly get. You just don't take damage for 4 seconds and you will get 20% weapon and status damage for 30 seconds. And it won't get cancelled out even if you get damaged. After you lose the effect though, you'll just need to not take damage again for 4 seconds. And for the bottom pieces, we're using Deadshot. There's nothing else to really use for the pants for this build. You could be using like, I don't know, literally there's nothing to use. Elemental Resonance, we cannot use it because you would have to trigger 24 power surges. You will need to literally shoot a wall mag of 24 bullets to get a 24% elemental on the next reload, which is, do you really want to do that? Deadshot is just the best option here. Now this build is balanced to the maximum. Literally I min-max this build as much as possible, balancing elemental and crit damage, so there's nothing else you can really do here. If you follow my options here, you will get the most out of this build. I'm just sticking with Deadshot for this build, as your bullets will be able to benefit from Deadshot, and your Power Surge will also be able to benefit from that. And basically that's it for the beginner preset mods. For the preset, for endgame, we're using Shock Rampage, Faithful Strike, First Electrocution, literally the same mods, except the 3 mods here. You can replace this with Ardent Shield if you like. You don't really have to. You can still use Quick Comeback if you want. And Ardent Shield just basically makes you survive more. You get a 50% damage reduction when your shield is active, and it will not allow mobs to one-tap you. So as long as you have the shield, they will break the shield and not do damage to your HP. It can be a lifesaver, but of course, if you do run the Ardent Shield, you can consider using the 4 treacherous pieces, as that will allow you to get a shield 20% of your max HP, and when your HP is below 40%, and a cooldown of 8 seconds. So it can be nice for surviving if you struggle a lot with this armor pieces, and the DPS loss is not that bad. So now for the shoes, we're using Rush Hour, because Rush Hour just basically gives you 36% damage increase when you're low HP. It's higher than Covered Advance, and it doesn't need any conditions. As long as you're low HP, you're just getting that damage increase of weapon and status damage. Of course, you can get up to 36 if you're really low, but even if you're like at 20%, 30% HP, you'll have like 24% damage increase. So the Rush Hour is very good for low HP builds. And it's Deadshot again on the pants. So for the suffixes, now we are using only 1 Violent for the gloves. We are using 1 Lunar for the top piece, 1 Lunar for the helmet, 2 Power Surges for the gun and mask, and we're using Downstar again for the pants and shoes. We're gonna jump into the subsets now, and let's click here. You'll be at the min-max tab here. Everything is listed here, all the stats of literally everything. Crit rates, crit damage, weapon damage, status damage, elemental damage, damage against gray ones, power surge damage, everything is literally listed here. So if you wanna like compare the stats with mine, it's here. Although keep in mind, this is a min-maxed, maxed out build with 3 gold substats on each mod. This is the maximum possible you can get. For the subsets, you will want to focus on crit damage, weapon damage, maxing capacity, and damage against grey ones. That would be only for the violent suffix right here, because you cannot get maxing capacity on Power Surge, neither on Lunar, neither on Downstar. Technically, I recommend you to go and run 2 Violent instead of the shoes and bottoms if you want maxing capacity. If you don't, stick to Downstar. Although just know, because Downstar is easier to get double substats as crit damage and weapon damage. But if you want maxing capacity, again, you will need to run Violent suffixes on these 2. Then here it says order doesn't matter. It can be on gun or mask mods, the substats, but might be easier to get these substats on gun mod. I noticed that on gun mod, my Power Surge substats, I can get triple substats, while in my mask mod I literally can't get it, but maybe I'm just unlucky or lucky, I don't know. Basically for the shock rampage, you want to go with Power Surge damage bonus. This is always going to be there, but you want it green. Shock damage is going to be 6%, gray one's 6%, and damage 6% on targets with Power Surge. I'm going to explain what this does in a second. For the mask Power Surge, you want to get Power Surge damage blue, substat 3.6, Power Surge trigger chance 4.8% purple, and gray one 6%, and damage 6% on targets with Power Surge. Yes, you want to get only 4.8, you don't need 6% because we are already capping out on the trigger chance. And now we have 80% base chance as trigger chance, right? Shock Rampage adds 16 and the mod adds 4.8. Summing all of this together, we will get a total of 108 trigger chance. Now, a lot of people think that this Power Surge trigger chance is multiplicative to the base chance. It is not. It is additive, and here's proof that it is. As you can see, we have Shock Rampage. For those who listen to people who say that, you've been literally fooled for literally 12 months of playing this game. All right, let's shoot all the bullets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. All bullets triggered the Power Surge. I've been telling everyone that trigger chance in this game from substats is always additive, not multiplicative. Now, what is this targets with Power Surge? On this gun, I have only 6.4 on targets with Power Surge, and shock damage 6% and Power Surge damage 6%. So with all of that, no cradle equipped, all we have is just one gun with base 125 psi intensity, right? This is going to be our damage of Power Surge on the very first shot, 81, and once it's triggered, it's going to multiply that damage by 6.4%, which turns it into 86 damage. So look at this. As you can see, we triggered and it's already 86 damage. If I wait a little bit of time until the status disappears, first trigger is 81 and the second trigger is boom, 86 always. And take a look what else is happening. Our weapon damage 356 is increased as well to 379. This is extremely easy to calculate. We just put the base damage of attack, which our damage is displayed over here. You can just put the damage already. It's calculated for you here. Also, it rounds numbers very weirdly, so I don't recommend using damage from the gun itself. Just use the attack that it provides here. Then as you can see, we do 356 with the first shot, and with the second shot, we will do 379. Let's check. 356. 379. Perfect. So now you guys know what the damage 6.4% on targets with Power Surge does. As soon as you trigger Power Surge, you get that 6.4 on targets with Power Surge increase. It is a different multiplier. It doesn't go in the same multiplier as boss enemies, normal enemies, or elite enemies. It's just a separate multiplier, which if you have 8% on both mods, you're technically getting 16% extra damage for free. All right, and lastly, the most important one now, on the Lunar Helmet mod now, you want to have weapon damage 12% substat and 16% elemental. Not crit damage, and this is just to balance out the elemental quite a little bit. If you go higher than 32 though, for sacrificing more crit damage, you will do less damage. So this is the perfect amount you could have, really. And for the Ardent Shield, you just want to go with weapon damage and crit damage. Gray ones, HP or damage reduced. The last subset really doesn't matter, so you can be just literally this. But if you get HP or damage reduced, that's nice. There's nothing really else you can get. Yeah, Faithful Strike, Elemental, Weapon Damage, and Gray ones. All 3 gold substats. And that is the build. Ladies and gentlemen, last things I want to show you is Cradled should you use for this gun. So you will want Anti-Void, Rapid Aid, Status Enhancement, Tactical Combo, Deviant Energy Defense, Tactical Leap only if you use this in silos. If you do monoliths, unequip it and use something else, like, I don't know, this one or this one, Bounty Hunter. When you mark a target, you gain extra weapon damage increase, stacking up to 5 times. You just would have to remark it over and over. You would get extra free 15% weapon damage, basically, if you use Wildfire as marking. Anyways, you will want Elemental Sense, most important one, must have this, and you will want Transient Impact. Now for the ammunition you want to use for this gun, let's talk about that. The easiest ammo to obtain is obviously, the cheapest ammo is obviously going to be Tungsten Shotgun AP ammo. Even more cheaper option blue if you want a less damage for less cost of tungsten, but of course use purple if you can afford it. The second best option of ammo is to use suppression for silos. Doesn't work in monoliths, so just stick to purple ammo if you're doing monoliths. If you are doing Rosetta silos, do control unit, as this will do more damage as well. Just in Rosettas, by the way, and vultures. Not for deviants or zombies. Really, if you're rich enough, like if you have unlimited gold ores, then yes, you can use gold ore as the most expensive ammo option. I mean, if you just use the gloves with a hide that gives you extra gold ores, if you use the canned sea fool, and if you use the multiplier in Endless Dreams when mining gold ores, you know, when these purple multipliers appear in a dream zone, you would basically get increased yield. So if you mine gold ore, you can get like what, 2k per mine. Anyways, there's going to be armor options for the endgame presets. However, I did not include beginner presets, as really you shouldn't stay on a beginner preset. And if you want more crit, 5%, just put 2 lone wolf pieces with 3 treacherous. If you want less crit and you want 8% more elemental, just put 2 shelter. Although I don't recommend putting 2 shelter. Why? Because you actually lose magazine capacity as well, which yeah, it's a little bit more annoying. So just, I prefer this version, more crit, more magazine size, and yeah. And the deviation we're going to be using is the Lone Wolf. It will aggro mobs when you summon it, and you will deal extra 43.2% weapon damage on the boss or wherever the wolf hits. Also sinking in, you will also get some weapon damage. And of course, when you are low sanity, you will get extra 2.5. In total, 7.5 weapon damage. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below or just join my Discord. As always, I answer everything in my Discord in the Once Human General channel. And if you want to support me on my Patreon as well, 50 plus builds that there is for PvE and PvP, make sure to check the link in the description as well. The sheet link will be in the description for the Corrosion. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace out.